Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, my YouTube channel where I'm working on sharing my journey through getting off of the standard American diet onto a ketogenic diet and lifestyle, and working on getting rid of my binge eating disorder and all of the binging that I used to do, and getting rid of the sugar and the flour and the caffeine and the ultra processed foods and all of those things that I used to do. And I'm here with the wonderful Mike Collins from sugaraddiction.com, the sugar free man. And I'll put a link in the description of the video for No Sugar Nation. We're really trying to grow that community. And we know that there's so many people out there that need help with their sugar addiction like I do. And it's a very scary process. It's new. It's challenging. Something that you really have a lot more success when you do it with somebody else, when you're in a group. And we're
Yeah.
really trying to grow our groups because I've really noticed that, like being, like we say in AA, being in the middle of the herd, right? Like making sure that, you're doing all your things to help with your recovery, and you need a herd to be in the middle of. So
Right.
yeah. So thank you, Mike, for being here with me today. I always appreciate it. I always love spending time with you on these videos.
Always a pleasure. It's one of the highlights of my week. So keep them coming.
All right. So today we're going to hopefully get into some juicy stuff because Mike and I were talking for just a couple of minutes before we started to roll about how I'm really frustrated right now and angry. And I started off our conversation before we started rolling about being patient. And I said, I just need to be patient. I'm only 40 days right now with no sugar, no flour, but still 40 days, that's great. And I'm feeling really good. And I went to my sister's house the other day and there was some not my food there, and I didn't partake in it. But then when we were cleaning up the kitchen, there was some of it on the knife and it got on my hand, and I saw it on my hand, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm part of the no matter what club. So I washed it off. So, yeah, that's how I've been behaving. I'm feeling really strong in that way, but really kind of angry that I haven't really lost weight in 40 days. And, well, I lost 2 pounds, but then my percent body fat went up because my muscle mass went down, and I can't get myself into ketosis. And now I started fasting. I've been doing one meal a day and doing 22-hour fast, 23-hour fast. Yesterday, I made it about 24 hours. I was trying to go 36. But I think I'm just doing them too close together for me, because then my eating disorder voice comes in and it's like, oh, well, if you're going without food, you're going to need energy, and you can just drink, a cup of coffee, and that's going to give you more energy. And then, the last time I drank a cup of regular coffee, I was up for 2 days and it was awful. And I didn't like how I felt on it, which is good news, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to leave it alone and, not go there. So anyway, kind of feeling angry about things. And, Mike and I were both kind of wondering if that's the top of the feelings when there's really probably more feelings underneath the anger.
Absolutely. Do you have a gut feeling as to what it might be?
Well, no, not initially, not initially, because what I'm thinking is, why isn't this happening quicker? Why am I not getting into ketosis quicker? Why am I not losing weight quicker? And I think all of that's just because, I went for what? I've been 5 days with, one meal a day. I've been 5 days cutting down my food intake significantly. And the Zepbound's really helping me with the hunger. I'm really not all that hungry, and I can go longer periods of time without eating.
Mm.
But I just think it hasn't been long enough, and that I just need to be patient. But I don't know if there's something. So I'm angry that I'm not seeing results quick enough. And with me, I highly doubt that that's all that it is.
I mean, we have to think of a process so that you can identify it a little bit.
Mhm.
Anger without the understanding of what's deeper, or what's what you mentioned below it, is a kind of frustrating in a lot of ways. And I can understand why you're frustrated. I mean, it does sound logical that the way that you're eating and the adherence to all that is, you really should be dropping it, or you would think you would drop a few pounds. But, when it does start to happen, it's pretty steady, and it's a really just a steady process. I mean, there could be a lot of healing the body's taking care of first. Now that you're kind of completely off of everything, I worry about the liver and supplementation and Zepbound being processed in the liver, kind of it as a, something that shouldn't be in there kind of thing, or something synthetic or whatever. And supplements. I know you've heard about our problems around the community where people will lose a little bit of weight or they'll get a stall like this, and then we discover they're taking a lot of supplements or whatever. So maybe it's your liver healing up, right? Maybe you're just healing a little bit
Mm,
more. And when it's
mhm,
healed enough, it can start processing better. As far as the ketosis, you're burning a lot of, hopefully, I mean, I don't, it also doesn't seem logical that you wouldn't be in ketosis, for the diet that you have. I mean, you want to do a little bit of an audit and try and figure out like what
mm,
could be keeping you from that?
mhm. I think that's a great idea, Mike, because I think I'm getting more carbs into the day than I think I do. I think
Okay.
that could be it because, like yesterday, I ate some blueberries and I didn't count them out. I didn't eat 10. I probably ate closer to 20.
Right.
And then I had like a third of a green apple with a little bit of almond butter on it. And so this morning my ketones were point 0.4. And then I thought about that and I thought, well, look what you ate. And then I kind of sneak them in. Like I'll have 1 ounce of nuts. I mean, and I'll think, well, that's just good fat for me. But there's 7 grams of carbs in those nuts. I looked at that this morning.
Yeah.
And then I'll put a little bit like this morning, I had some ground beef and I had this buffalo chicken dip that I make that has dairy in it, and there's gonna be some carbs in the dairy, and then I put on it a little bit of sour cream and a little bit of salsa, and not a lot, but there's carbs in the salsa and the sour cream, like, not a lot of carbs, but I think that my carbs are just kinda adding up because 'cause I'm trying to shoot for under 20 grams a day, and I think I'm getting closer to 50.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there's 2 things. One, we've talked about the sneaky and all this, It's like there's this kind of step down rationale, I call it. I mean, maybe I just invented that now. But when you're stepping down, most people don't go from the standard American diet or a binge kind of carb or sugary loaded diet to a carnivore or stricter keto, right? It's rare. I mean, it's very rare actually. So the sneaky part of it is really important. And also, what was the other thing I was going to talk about was there was something else I was going to remember. I was going to try and remember, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things at play here. Wiggle room is one of them. I mean, it's like we're trying to get a little wiggle room to stay. You're willing to do almost a fast or a 24-hour fast and stuff, and you just. I know what I was going to say. So the more that I do this, the more that I believe that a lot of our clients, and I think people in general, I think people are way more sensitive than they understand. The human body is way more sensitive than, like we like denigrate dogs for smelling the new dog they meet's butt, right? And we denigrate or we don't like understand how. I'll be right with you. I'll be right with you. We don't understand how I threw off my thought there. We don't understand like that these things. I mean, we have to make a decision, and that decision is like, am I one of those persons where any amount of carbohydrates, and in this case, fructose, especially with the apples, the nuts, the blueberries,
Mhm,
are we
mhm,
stopping our liver healing enough to not heal up enough to process the additional fat that we want to lose in the liver and in the body, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I think this is the linchpin that I can't get. I'm working with this woman who's a chiropractor. She's brilliant. She's done a lot of personal development stuff, but I cannot get her to understand this. And I can't get anybody really genuinely to understand the depth of my belief and understanding of fructose and the liver, right? And
mhm,
once you've
mhm,
really gone to the point of fatty liver and not being able to use your liver to detox your body,
mhm,
then
mhm,
like just it's almost like, and this is a part that it's a I think it's a fair analogy. What you are now is you're a beer alcoholic. You're continuing to drink the beer at lower levels. You don't seem to get drunk like you used to do on the whiskey, and you seem to be able to control it a little bit better, and your life's not a wreck. But the fructose is the same. If just think of the fructose, the liver being inflamed and filled with fat, right? And it heals up a little bit when you get off the ultra processed carbs and sugars. But then you're doing everything you can. And here's the kind of analogy, the tie-in is that that beer, that fructose, that sweetness is keeping the irritation at the same place as opposed
Yeah.
to healing it up so the liver can do its processing work on the fat that's going into your system from your other body parts, organs, visceral fat. Like the liver can't do its work because it's staying niggly, kind of weirdly inflamed by the amount of fructose that you're ingesting, right?
Yeah, that could be the case. And the other thing too is that it's been sick for a long time. Oh, I mean, for decades, I was feeding it ultra processed sugar. I think, like the way I imagine it in my mind is that it's getting sicker, it's getting sicker, it's getting sicker. Now it's at the stage where it's not getting any sicker.
Right,
But it's not getting better yet.
right.
So I just need to be patient in this little kind of window where it's not getting sicker, it's just settling down. The inflammation hopefully is getting better. And I think you're right. I think that every little bit of fructose that I get in there is, causing it issues. And being off of all of the borderline foods completely, I know would help me tremendously as far as my weight loss. And so it's a good thing that I'm saying that to you here because I'm thinking about the fruit that I eat. I'm thinking about the nuts and I'm thinking about the dairy.
Yeah. So we also do not know what type of processing is required for the Zepbound and any supplements and whatever. So Lustig's main thing is like heal the liver or protect the liver, one of those things. And we've talked in our community many times about the people who have weight loss stalls, but are taking a lot of supplements and the liver can't get its final healing in or done, right? To assist in this weight loss process. Because in my world, I just don't believe that you're gonna, and so I'm great that you're going to the exercise guy, but that's really, I think, for emotional and mental uh, work. It's so that you're creating endorphins, you're creating all of the brain and body reward chemicals. It's soothing you in one. It's just one of your practices, right?
Mhm.
But I think in
Mhm.
order for the body to come back to homeostasis, you have to have a well functioning liver. And again, you said it pretty well. I really liked it actually. Is that it's good. It's not getting worse, and not gonna, but it's not getting any better. It's stopped. It's just like your weight loss. It's stalled.
Mm.
It's just not working or not moving in the direction that you want it to. And it's difficult to like think about. I mean, you've done the visualizations. I know I have, like where you're visualizing whatever the body part that you want worked inside getting healed, getting cleaned. I think that's actually a logical thing to do right now, right? Where you're
Mhm.
visualizing your liver being your strongest ally, your strongest organ. You put the white light on it, all that kind of cool stuff. I've been doing breath work lately, right? And they have you focus
Cool.
on different stuff like that, whatever. And I think that's a big part of it. It truly is the inability to lose weight, a chemical. You're not going to burn this off. You're not going to run it off and then eat green apples and nut butter and lots of blueberries and whatever, whatever, and borderline foods. And one of the biggest revelations you had just now is that you were doing much better with weight loss when you were cognizant. I don't know exactly, I wasn't clear on what you were saying, but and you were really aware of the level of the borderline foods, which all those things are included in.
Well, and I think what was going on then was that I was just eating more food in general and probably larger volume of even the other, of the protein and, just getting more food in. And so relative to the amount of food that I'm getting in, now that I'm getting less food in and still have the borderline foods going in, it's like relatively more percentage wise, probably than it was in the past because I was just eating more food.
I don't think the volume of food, if it's like steak and avocados or not avocado,
Hmm.
steak, and eggs and fish and stuff, I don't think it would affect it in any way. I really don't. I mean, and again, I think a lot of this ties back to your level of sensitivity, right? So you've healed this far I mean, I really love what you said, and I think I'm gonna start using it and stealing it, is this idea, okay, you've stopped the bad part of the liver disease, which is exactly what it is, fatty liver, but now you're not healing it the way you could be, because it still gets a little irritated. It still gets a little irritated because it's got to process this stuff, and it's all red and raw. I mean, these
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah,
these are
yeah.
these are analogies that are probably not true in the actual scientific term. It's a little roughed up still, and a small. It's like pouring alcohol on a scab or a wound. It's
Yeah,
like just going
yeah.
to keep it red.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing and tighten up my, borderline foods because I always feel like I walk on this tightrope of, making sure I don't binge. I mean, because I walk every day, I have this fear, that, "Oh my gosh, I could go on a huge bender today and just binge for 2 months on, this food." I think I'm pretty safe in that area just because when I think about I'm getting enough of these abstinent days under my belt so that when I think about how much better I feel now that, if I were to do that, it would make me feel so sick for so long that
Mm.
it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And so then I think, well, but I have a healthy fear of that binging, and so I don't want to ever go there again. And then, my voice will say, "Well, you could just have one cookie. You could just have this. You don't have to go binge." But then I know that that's opening up the door for me for binging. It just does. I've tried that too many times, to know that when I eat a little something of the sugar and the fat and the salt and get it all together in there in their little sweet spot that they create for me,
I
that creates a really bad situation for me to go
I
on to
think
binge.
last week got you affirmed that you were into the mental positive zone or something, whatever. Like you had completely, uh, you were what'd you call it? The, no what club?
No matter what
No
club.
matter what club, plus you were in the healthy fear. The no matter what club, plus the healthy fear, plus the sick and tired of being sick and tired. You were emotionally there. And now I think you're laying into place and laying over it this kind of, what's the physical ramification? What do I need to do to accomplish my goals? So you're kind of figuring it all out, putting it all together, which is a great way to do it. You're doing great with that. So
Yeah, thank you. I like that. I like that idea of, let's stop what we've been doing. Now let's start taking better physical care of myself. And then once I get strong enough physically, the emotional part's going to come. I
yeah,
really do think because I'm off that
more,
Cymbalta
come more,
now.
come more.
Yeah. And I've been noticing like I'm not really depressed, but I'm just really lonely. I've just been so lonely and alone, which, like I'd rather be alone and be lonely than be with some guy who's a total jerk. And, I look around and I see what people deal with and I think, God, I'd rather just be lonely.
Right.
But and I'm on eHarmony, but that, like, is the not good. They want me to extend my parameters, and I'm like, "No, because the guys that you send me are"
Well, I
I
mean, I
mean
would suggest the traditional recovery stuff, no big decisions like that. That could throw you for
huh.
a loop.
Yeah, you're right, I probably shouldn't be doing that for a year.
But anyway, what I'm getting at here is like the level of sensitivity. I think at the end of the day, you're going to find you are so sensitive, and emotional stuff like that would just rock your world a little bit, right? Up and down, good and bad, whatever. But it'd start
Oh,
you on,
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've been on binges over that kinda stuff, yeah,
yeah, and you're,
and mismanaged.
yeah. So I mean, you're,
Yeah, God works in his time and he knows what he's doing. And I just have to trust that and do, my footwork. But this has been a great discussion because it's really helped me um and see like I need to start not necessarily weighing and measuring my food, although I always measure my nuts. Whenever I eat nuts, I weigh out 1 ounce and that's it.
those things are bad.
Yeah, because I can't, but, looking at what I really do eat throughout the day and, going back to a food plan. Because when I've been doing this fasting, I haven't been writing a food plan because I haven't been eating. There's so many advantages to it. I don't have to load the dishwasher. I don't have to empty it so much, which I hate doing.
Right.
I'm saving money on food. The same food is still in there, and you have more free time on your hands because you're not preparing the food, you're not eating the food. There's a lot of advantages to it that
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, in the early days of doing this work, I always thought that, the last thing that I want people to end up as, you know, the eating disorder folks is the demonizing one food, and they would go from binge eaters and overweight folks to anorexic, because the focus would be always on the, am I eating, what am I eating, all that crap, right? But I honestly believe, and our stats have kind of bared this out, is that 85% of people who truly eliminate the sugar and ultra processed carbs, most of their other addictive things go away. And I think what's happening to you, which would definitely happen to me, is actually has happened to me many times. And I'm on a little bit of a macadamia nut, back on a macadamia nut thing myself, is that when you heal up from the sugar and the flour, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, is that you really do unconsciously feel the whatever I believe the psychoactive nature of fructose is. And for me, I don't think it's liver problems or liver processing, but it definitely is psychoactive in my world, right? I look
Mhm.
forward to those little bit of nuts after a sauna kind of thing. I and I it's like, not only am I buzzing a little from the sauna and cold plunge, then I have to add to it, right? I have to make it a little better.
Mhm.
And it's palpable. It's not like I can actually feel it driving home from the Whole Foods after I've had a little, right? And so I think that that is happening with you, with blueberries and with stuff, and quicker than if your liver were completely healed, right? I think it's happening because of your level of sensitivity. So I wouldn't, I would take this pretty seriously and try and see if you can't cut back on that stuff and see how you do.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, I'll just be more cognizant of it. Sometimes you don't wanna see the reality of things,
Yeah.
so you'll just, like, bypass it, you'll just throw the nuts in your mouth and not think about it, and then, like this morning, I got up and my stomach was growling, which is unusual in the morning before I got out of bed,
That's
and then
always a clue right there that you ate something that wants more. It wants more of,
Mhm. And
because
that was the blueberries and the apple
right.
with the almond butter, I'm sure. But, yeah, so then this morning, I actually did grab a little bit of nuts without weighing and measuring them and put it in my mouth, and it's very rare. I rarely do that. And then I counted it as an ounce, and then I was mad because I probably ripped myself off. I'm like, "Shoot, I know that wasn't a whole ounce, but because I didn't measure it, I'm gonna count it as an ounce," so then you have that whole conversation. So, it's just yeah, I just have to be patient, and I have to realize, because part of me thinks about when I used to eat foods. Okay, we're coming into the emotions through the back door. I used to eat ultra processed foods in ways that were very um harmful to myself and, very physical. I would eat so that I couldn't get up off the couch, and I would just have to sit there in a coma and I'd have to pee. But I couldn't move. I was in so much pain, emotionally and physically that I had to decide whether or not I'm gonna pee in my pants or I'm just gonna, like, crawl to the bathroom, and eventually I got myself onto the floor from the couch and then got myself up from the floor to the bathroom, but I'll never forget that, and so I have to remember how far I've come because I was doing some pretty bad and mean things to myself on a regular basis and, caught up in a vicious circle where it was so hard to get off of the hamster wheel because when you tried to pull off of the sugar, it was so intense. The cravings and the shame and the guilt and all of the other parts of it, not just the physical part, but it was so hard to get off of it. And I would just end up back there again. And this was toward the end because I was just getting so sick, and this was after I had done inpatient, where you and I have talked about that,
Mhm.
where they tried to teach me that all foods fit, and for me as a sugar addict, it didn't go over too well, and, $10,000 later, I'm 15 pounds heavier coming out of there. I mean, it was just such a disservice, that whole thing, they were trying hard to help me and believing that they were, but they weren't. So part of me has to really give myself some grace and look at how far I've come
Mm.
and understand that, yeah, I'm really sensitive to this stuff. And as I'm trying to pull off the last little bit of it, my body is feeling it and being sensitive to it because that's what it does. But, it's so interesting because the emotional part of it, like, I deserve a good life. Like, I just know that beating myself, being so hard on myself physically and emotionally does not help me and does not help others. And that's one thing that I really like to do is help other people.
Yeah, I mean, the whole we gotta get your oxygen mask on first, but let me I have a question. So, is there any recollection of what you were numbing at that first time when you couldn't get off the couch, or what part of your life were you in, and what was devastating that you wanted to numb so much? Any remembrance there? Any memory?
Well, this was toward the end of the whole thing, and I was living in an apartment down in Mission Valley, kind of, and I was working at a job that was very overwhelming to me. And I actually left the job. I actually basically was asked to left the job because of it was obvious that it was overwhelming to me.
Mhm.
And I think that had a lot to do with it. And I was in a situation where, for work, they would do things like they rolled out this program called Home by 5 because they wanted everybody to be home by 5. So they
Mm,
rolled out this program to be home by 5 so that you could be with your family. And I couldn't keep up with everything. I couldn't keep up with my charting. So I would be home by 5 and then I would have, 5 hours of charting and prepping my charts for the next day to do. And
okay.
then you had to call all your patients back within 24 hours. Whoever wanted to talk to you, you had to
Mm.
call them back within 24 hours. So I had to do that. And so I wouldn't even finish doing that till, 8 o'clock at night. And then I'd have to, do my charting and then I'd have to prep my charts. And so I was trying hard to do a good job, but I just really wasn't. And I think that had a lot to do with it.
So, is there a overwhelm you feel now?
Like, am I overwhelmed? Do I feel overwhelmed now? No, not really. I just finished actually last night my final video to become a certified metabolic health practitioner. And the videos are fascinating. You would just love them, Mike.
Sure.
It's all about the ketogenic diet. And the last module I took was on metabolism and the mind. And it talks about how these people who are unrefractory to medical intervention for their schizophrenia and their schizoaffective disorder and depression and bipolar and anxiety and anorexia, how much better some of these people can get on a ketogenic diet. And you think that it would be so hard for people to be on the ketogenic diet, but when you help somebody when you put bipolar into remission,
I
it's
love
not
that.
that hard to choose a cupcake over a steak when you're feeling that much better.
I love
And that's
that.
kind of the point where I am now. I'm like, God, I don't want to go back to that binge eating because I just feel so much better this way. It's worth it.
Two things. One, probably in both directions. Are you feeling like the taking of this coincides with your 40 days here? This kind of learning more about you and helping others and stuff? And two, is it like too much, or too early, or how are you feeling about that part of taking the course now?
With the metabolic health practitioner course? Yeah, well, I've been doing it for a while. I've been in that course, I think, since before November. And I didn't realize it was going to be so hard. I didn't realize there were going to be nearly so many videos and so much work to do to get the certification. And so I don't know. I know that now that I'm done with it, I'm not going to be doing any other certifications for a while.
Okay.
I just pray to God I'm done because I feel like between this metabolic health practitioner and the experience that I had through doing your program to become a sugar detox and addiction coach and my own personal experiences, I'm in like perfect position to help
Yeah.
other people through this because
You forgot the MD part.
well, and 14 years of that education for that. Yeah. But, I have to tell you that, an MD to me, an MD degree means that not so much that you have all this knowledge because they did not teach me about metabolic psychiatry. They didn't teach me about
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
ketogenic diet. They taught me to exercise more and eat less,
yeah.
So they didn't teach me that, but it does, in my mind, create respect because of the hard work that I did just to get the job done.
Yeah, I'm probably looking more at the, attraction of clients than I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that, like, I think the most fruitful thing we did was that you started to crack emotionally, and I don't know, hopefully you feel safe enough with me, and I know it's risky. Brené Brown calls it a shame hangover when you divulge too much publicly and whatever, but you're learning to process, or you're low on carbohydrates and sugar or non-existence and you're healing, and so you know, the emotions are coming whether you like it or not.
Right. Plus, I'm off my Cymbalta now. I pulled off of that completely,
Exactly.
and
So
that's been like 3 weeks.
now we have to figure out how much the Zepbound is affecting your emotional life, and if you were to completely stop it, would it would it take you to another level emotionally? I mean, you and I have discussed this before about GLP-1s in general, having people stop drinking and smoking and gambling and doing all that kind of other stuff. Like,
Yeah,
definitely the food noise stops, right?
yeah,
Well, I mean, if everybody's talking about it freezing the stomach and slowing the digestion and all that kind of stuff and losing muscle mass, what does that have to do with the brain, right? And so it's the same thing as the fructose. We know so little, we don't know enough about it, but all of the direction is pointing towards that there is some mental component, just like the metabolic psychiatry stuff you're talking about, right? There is a
absolutely.
mental component to the diet, what you're ingesting, and it's real, very, very real. Matthew Basinski, who is the son of the Roblex guys who founded or helped fund the movie, The Cholesterol Code, and Metabolic Mind, and all that kind of stuff, is getting real aggressive on Twitter and X. He's really starting to describe his story of coming off of five bipolar meds and being in the street and finally having to quit drinking, and and never will go off the type or the ketogenic diet again. It's real, you know what I mean? And we've had there are now a lot of successes. Even the cholesterol code, which is largely about the lean mass hyperresponders and cholesterol goes up when you have a ketogenic diet, has a section about the metabolic psychiatry part. And actually, Matthew's in it. The guy Matthew's in it. So I just think as we come full circle and talking about what we started is that your sensitivities are being broadcast now with fructose and borderline foods. And one of the most important things you said is that you did well when you were super aware and not indulging in the borderline foods. I mean, you may just be one of those folks that is on the high end of the sensitivity spectrum, and a time of abstinence from all of this stuff would rocket ship you, both in weight loss and in, you know, mental health well-being or feeling
Mhm,
good.
mhm. And the other thing too is, when I think about how sensitive I probably am, it's starting to reveal itself. And I think about how much stuff I was dumping into my body with with those ultra processed food binges,
Right.
over and over and over. I'm really lucky that I don't have scarring in my liver. I mean, I feel like that. I'm really lucky that I don't have MASH and that I'm heading towards cirrhosis and the transplant. I mean, because this was, you know, 20 years that I trashed my liver. And so I know that I'm strong. I know that I can heal.
I do.
And you're right. I think I just have to tighten it up a little bit and fine tune it a little bit and be patient and just pay attention to everything that I put in my mouth and not be so afraid of, that I'm going to go back to that place because I have everything. I have a lot of good support in place to keep me from being there. And now I'm getting a lot of experience being abstinent and really enjoying that and feeling more confident that I can continue on to my 40 days and my 180 days and my 1,000 days and whatever it is.
Just realize that the tightening is going to bring the emotion, right? It's already happening. No Cymbalta, 40 days, it's going to start bringing it, right? And whatever it is, I love the phrase, "The body's not gonna give you more than you can handle." It's just, we have to go there every session until whatever, the pound in the bed is part of the process, whatever you're, excising it is so you can be aware of it. And that's usually what people are afraid of. In the end, it's always in hindsight now. It's never up front. It's always in hindsight. They realize that's what they were afraid of. They knew what was coming. They knew what they were feeling. They had seen glimpses of it before, and I know you've seen glimpses of because I've been with you when you saw 'em, and it could be deeper or it could be worse, and there could be longer days of not feeling great, right? I mean, I'm really encouraged that you didn't have a real bad run when you got off the caffeine. That's positive, a real big positive. So biochemically, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm just wondering if I'm still kind of sitting in that because I do feel a little bit of dysthymia, where I'm not depressed, but I'm just down.
Mm.
And I'm feeling that way. And I'm lonely and down. And
Yeah,
it's,
that's the pause of caffeine withdrawals, right? That's the post-acute withdrawal syndrome, and that
yeah,
lasts months, literally months, and but when you get to the other side of that, like, if you can continue with the tightening in other areas and realize I think the hard part is, and I wish I'd had people guide me through this. The hard part is realizing that it is mostly physical biochemical reactions in your brain and not that, yeah, you might be lonely, but you have a lot of friends and you have a lot of relatives or siblings and whatever. So you can reach out to them, but there is probably an overall dis-ease with all that. So you could move but realize again, this is hard for me to explain to people or have them understand it that this feeling, that low affect feeling, possibly even loneliness tangential to it, is a physical feeling, not necessarily the actual loneliness or the actual downness. The reason I know this is because in hindsight, they say one day, or it happens slowly, kind of you have one day that's all, and then you count down again. But then after a while, it's back. You're back. And now that's gone because you healed it. And 100 people have told me the same thing. It's gone, right? That's gone. That low affect, it's gone.
yeah.
So
All right. Well, I'm just going to keep on keeping on. Pay attention to where I've come from and give myself credit for that and be aware of where I am and what I need to do to tune up my current situation and project into a good future, a wonderful future.
you are doing it. You are doing it. You really
Well,
are.
I just thank you so much, Mike, for being my guide. I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled. I'm so lucky. I mean, you're so experienced. And that's one of the things I can be good at is surrounding myself around good people to support me. So I really appreciate you being one of the main members of my team.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind of you, sir.
All right, you guys, take good care. We'll see you next time. Bye.